Hey guys, welcome back. Tonight we're diving deep into something I've been thinking about a lot lately. Something so simple, so everyday, that we almost never think about it. But once you start imagining what it was actually like, it becomes absolutely fascinating in the most ordinary way. The topic tonight: what medieval breakfast was really like and more. Before we get comfortable and ease into this journey together, I'd love to ask you something. If you're enjoying these stories, if they're actually helping you drift off, if this adds value to your sleep routine, then please genuinely like this video and subscribe. But only if you mean it. I'd rather have a small community of people who genuinely connect with this content than a bunch of empty numbers. Your engagement means everything to me. And here's something I really want to know. Where are you tuning in from right now? What time is it where you are? Are you in bed already? Or are you winding down? It's always so fascinating to me to know who's joining this journey around the world. The idea that someone in Tokyo might be listening, while someone in London is listening, while someone in Sao Paulo is listening, all at the same time, all trying to fall asleep. It's kind of beautiful, honestly. Drop a comment and let me know. I read them. I care about them. You're not just a view count to me. All right, now that that's out of the way, let's prepare for tonight. Dim the lights if they're still on. If you have a fan in your room, turn it on. There's something about that gentle, consistent sound that just works with stories like this. Adjust your pillow. Get comfortable. Make sure your phone brightness is low enough that it's not keeping you alert. Let's ease into tonight's journey together. Soft crackling of a fire, distant morning birds, the sound of wind through old stone. You're lying in bed, but this isn't your bed. The mattress beneath you is filled with straw, real straw. You can feel the stalks pressing against your back even through the cloth covering. It smells like dried grass and earth and something vaguely like animals. This is just how beds are. You've never known anything different. The light coming through the window is gray, very gray. The kind of gray that suggests it's early morning, but the sun hasn't quite decided to wake up yet. You can hear it though, the world waking. A rooster calling out somewhere. The sound of someone's footsteps on stone. A door creaking open. Your body is cold. Not dangerously cold, but persistently cold. The kind of cold that has seeped into your bones during the night. There are blankets on top of you, but they're not very heavy. Wool probably, rough and itchy. This is the medieval world, and warmth is a luxury. You lie there for a moment, not wanting to move. In another time, another place, you would pull the blankets up higher and try to sleep for another hour. But not here. Not now. There's work to be done. There's always work to be done. Slowly, reluctantly, you sit up. The room comes into focus. It's small, very small. Stone walls painted with whitewash that's begun to crack and peel. There's a window, just a simple opening in the wall, no glass. In winter, they probably cover it with something. In spring, like now, it's just open to the air. A small shelf holds your few possessions. A comb, a cloth, something wrapped in cloth that might be food. There's a smell in the room. Not unpleasant exactly, but definitely present. It's the smell of people living in a small space, of bodies that don't bathe often, of damp stone and smoke from the fire that's probably burning somewhere below, of old cloth and straw and time. You swing your legs over the side of the bed and feel the cold stone floor beneath your bare feet. The shock is immediate. You draw in a breath. The shock passes. You stand up. Your body aches. your back, your knees, your hands. This is normal. This is just what bodies do in this era. They ache. They complain. They work anyway. The stairs are narrow and steep. Your hand trails along the stone wall as you descend, feeling the cold through your fingertips. The darkness is surprising. You've come from a gray morning light to near total darkness. Then gradually, you begin to see again. Orange light, firelight. You're in the kitchen, or what passes for a kitchen in this era. It's a room with a large hearth taking up almost one entire wall. The fire is burning, but not with any particular enthusiasm. It's more of a smoldering, patient fire, the kind that's meant to stay alive all night and provide heat through the morning. A woman is tending to it. She's older, maybe 60, maybe 70. Age is hard to tell in this era. She wears a long linen shift, dyed a pale brown or beige color, and over that, a heavier overdress in a darker color, deep green or blue. Her hair is completely covered by a linen head covering that's tied beneath her chin. She moves with the efficiency of someone who's been doing this for a very long time. She doesn't look at you. She knows you're there. She's been expecting you. This is the routine. The porridge is on the fire, she says. Her voice is rough, but not unkind. It should be ready soon. You nod, even though she's not looking. You move further into the kitchen and stand near the fire, warming your hands. The heat feels good. Better than good. It feels necessary, essential. The fire in a medieval kitchen isn't just for cooking. It's for survival, for warmth, for light in the darkness, for transforming raw ingredients into something edible. The smell of the fire fills your nostrils, smoke and wood and something else, something cooking. It's not unpleasant. In fact, it's comforting. This is the smell of morning. This is the smell of breakfast being prepared. A bell rings out somewhere, not the church bell, a smaller bell, a household bell. The woman moves quickly, pulling a large wooden spoon from beside the hearth. She stirs whatever is cooking in the large iron pot. The spoon makes thick, heavy sounds against the pot. It's not a smooth, easy motion. There's resistance. Whatever is cooking is thick, dense. It requires effort to stir. Come, the woman says. Bring the bowl. You look around and see a wooden bowl on a small table. It's worn smooth by years of use. There's a spoon in it, a wooden spoon with a long handle. You pick up the bowl and move closer to the fire. The woman dips the spoon into the pot and pulls out a thick gray-brown substance. Porridge, medieval porridge. It's not the porridge you know from your time. It's thicker, heavier, almost solid. She deposits it into your bowl with a soft thunk. The bowl is warm now, very warm, almost too warm to hold. You balance it carefully in your hands. Eat, the woman says. It's not a suggestion. It's an instruction. You look at the porridge. It doesn't smell bad. It smells like grain, like the earth. There's something almost sweet about it, though you're not sure what. Maybe it's been cooked with honey, or maybe that's just the smell of grain, cooked over a slow fire. You sit on a bench beside the fire and bring the bowl to your mouth. You use the wooden spoon to get a small amount and taste it. It's warm. It's thick. It's not flavorful exactly, but it's not unpleasant. There's a grittiness to it, as if there's sand or very fine grain in it. You'll learn that this is normal. Medieval grain is less processed than modern grain. It still has bits of husk and chaff in it. You learn to chew carefully. The taste is simple. Grain, salt, not much else. but it's filling. Even a small amount seems to expand in your mouth and go down heavy into your stomach. But not everyone had porridge for breakfast. If you were a noble, you might have bread and ale. If you were very poor, you might have had nothing at all. Just water from a well and the hope that your stomach could wait until midday. You eat slowly, methodically. In the medieval world, eating is not rushed. Eating is a task, a necessity. You do it thoroughly and completely. The woman moves around the kitchen, tending to other tasks. She's taking bread from a small shelf and cutting it into chunks. She's filling a cup with something dark, ale probably, or cider. The cup is made of wood, worn and stained with use. The sound of her movements fills the quiet. The scrape of the knife against bread. The sound of liquid pouring. The crackle of the fire. These are the sounds of a medieval morning. Simple, repetitive, soothing in their own way. The whispered voice, they woke without alarm clocks. They woke because it was time, because the day was waiting, because there was work to be done. The fire continues to burn. The smoke rises up through a hole in the ceiling, a crude chimney that lets the smoke escape, but also lets the warmth escape as well. This is not efficient. But efficiency is not something the medieval world thinks about. The fire does what it does. The smoke goes up. That's all that matters. The porridge is gone. You've eaten it all. Your bowl is now just a wooden circle again, empty. Your stomach feels heavy. Not full exactly. You don't think you'll ever feel truly full in this era. But heavier than before, more substantial. The woman brings you the bread and the cup. The bread is still warm. That's something. The crust is thick and hard. The inside is denser than modern bread, but also more interesting somehow. It has depth to it. It has texture. It's bread that had to be fought for, grown from grain that had to be threshed and milled and mixed and kneaded and baked. You bite into it. It's good. Better than the porridge, actually. There's more flavor. The grain tastes different when it's in bread form. Maybe it's the heat of the oven. Maybe it's the time the yeast had to work on it. The cup contains ale. You can smell it immediately. It's not strong. The ale of this era is often weaker than it will become later. It's more like a beer, really. Cloudy, with a slightly sweet taste. In a way, everyone drinks ale instead of water. Water can be dangerous. It can carry disease. Ale is safer because it's been boiled during the brewing process. Everyone knows this, even if they don't understand why. Even children drink ale. Weaker ale usually, but ale nonetheless. You drink it slowly. It's cool now, having been sitting out. It's refreshing in a way that water wouldn't be. The light is getting slightly brighter. The sun is still not up, but it's beginning its approach. The world is preparing for day. You finish eating. The woman takes your bowl and cup and places them in a basin of water. She doesn't wash them yet. She'll do that later, probably after breakfast has been eaten by everyone in the household. Your stomach feels warm now. The porridge and bread and ale have done their work. Your body is beginning to feel more awake, more capable. The cold of the morning is still there, but you're able to tolerate it now. There is work to be done, the woman says. It's not unfriendly, it's just a statement of fact. You know this already. Everyone knows this. In the medieval world, there is always work to be done. There's no such thing as a day off. There's certainly no such thing as breakfast as a leisurely social event. Breakfast is fuel for the day ahead. That's all. You leave the kitchen and move toward the courtyard. The morning air hits you immediately. It's cold, much colder than the warmth of the kitchen, but it's fresh. The smell of the kitchen, smoke and cooking and human bodies, has been replaced by the smell of the outdoor world. Damp stone, growing things, animals. The courtyard is already active. People are moving from one place to another. There's a sense of purpose and routine. This is a working household, a manor, probably, or a monastery. Both operate on similar principles in the medieval world. Everyone knows their place. Everyone knows what needs to be done. You can see the sky properly now. It's beginning to lighten at the edges, purple and pink at the horizon. The grey is becoming slightly more blue. The sun will be up soon, but not everyone had eaten at this time. If you were a monk, you might fast until midday. If you were a peasant with a large field to work, you might wait until after you'd been working for several hours before eating again. If you were a noble, you might not wake for several more hours. Breakfast, or what passed for breakfast, was not universal in the medieval world. You're beginning to understand what breakfast really was in this era. It wasn't a meal, it was a necessity, a small pause in the day to put something in your stomach before the work began. It was utilitarian, practical, unglamorous. The food was basic, grain-based primarily, bread, porridge, maybe some ale. If you were lucky or wealthy, there might be cheese, or eggs, or meat. But for most people, it was bread and porridge and ale. These three things, repeated day after day, season after season, year after year. The taste was simple. The preparation was simple. The eating was simple. And yet, standing here in the medieval courtyard, with the taste of porridge and bread and ale still in your mouth, you realize that simple doesn't mean bad. It means something else, something harder to define. It means connected. Connected to the earth that grew the grain. Connected to the hands that harvested it. Connected to the hands that milled it. Connected to the fire that baked it. Connected to the animals that provided the milk for the cheese, if there had been cheese. Connected to the people who woke up before you did to prepare it. Breakfast in the medieval world is an act of connection, an act of community. Even when eaten alone, it's a shared experience. Everyone is eating the same thing. Everyone's stomach is being filled by the same basic ingredients. Everyone is preparing for the same kind of day. The sun is rising now. The edges of the horizon are truly golden. The day is truly beginning. Your breakfast is truly over. You move toward wherever you need to go. A field, probably, or a workshop, or a kitchen, or a scriptorium. Whatever your role is in this household, whatever your place in the medieval world, the work awaits. The breakfast was brief, maybe 15 minutes, maybe 20. It was enough. It was, in its simplest form, exactly what breakfast needed to be. The sound of footsteps fading, the sound of a door closing, the sound of the day beginning in earnest. Your eyes are beginning to feel heavy. The warmth of the kitchen fire seems to be still wrapped around you, even though you're no longer there. The smell of the porridge and bread is still in your nostrils. The taste of the ale is still on your tongue. You're beginning to drift. The medieval world is beginning to fade. The grey stone walls are becoming less distinct. The cold morning air is becoming warmer. Or perhaps you're just becoming less aware of it. The bell that rang to call people to breakfast is fading now. It's becoming a distant sound, almost like it never happened, almost like it was all a dream. But before it fades completely, before the medieval world lets you go entirely, you understand something. Breakfast was real. It was humble, it was unglamorous, but it mattered. The woman in the kitchen who prepared it wasn't a famous historical figure. Her name was probably never recorded. She won't be remembered in history books, but she existed. She woke up early. She lit the fire. She cooked the porridge. She fed her household. She did this day after day, for years, probably decades. And every person who ate that breakfast was sustained by her work. Every person who then went out into the day to do whatever work awaited them was able to do it because she had done hers. This is what breakfast really was in the medieval world. Not an event, not a social occasion, but an essential act of care, an act of survival, an act of love maybe, in the way that survival can be an act of love. Everyone who ate that breakfast mattered. The man who grew the grain mattered. The woman who ground it mattered. The person who kneaded the dough mattered. The fire that baked it mattered. The woman who prepared it mattered. All of these people and things interconnected, conspiring together to create one simple meal that would sustain one person for one day. And this happened billions of times, across centuries, in villages and cities and monasteries and farms scattered across Europe. Breakfast happened, and it mattered. The sound of the fire fading, the sound of the morning birds becoming quieter, the sound of the medieval world becoming more distant. You're almost asleep now. The medieval kitchen is almost entirely gone. The courtyard is fading. The stone walls are becoming transparent. But you can still feel the warmth of the fire. You can still taste the bread. You can still smell the smoke. You can still hear the woman's voice, calm and matter-of-fact, instructing you to eat. Rest well, a voice whispers. It might be the woman. It might be the medieval world itself. It might just be your own mind, finally letting you go. You've had your breakfast. The day has begun. Now, you can rest. The sound of a bell tolling, very soft, very far away. The sound of water flowing gently. The sound of breath, your breath, slow and deep and peaceful. Long silence. The sounds of sleep itself. You're no longer in the medieval world, but part of it is still with you. Part of the porridge is still warming your stomach. Part of the bread's texture is still between your teeth. Part of the fire's warmth is still surrounding you. And as you sleep, you'll dream. You'll dream of other breakfasts, other medieval kitchens, other women bending over fires, other porridge being stirred, other bread being broken. You'll dream of the continuity of human experience, of the way that something so simple, waking up, eating something, preparing for the day, has remained essentially the same across 1400 years of history. The food has changed. The technology has changed. The world has changed in almost every way. But people still need to eat breakfast. People still need fuel for the day. People still need someone to care enough to prepare it for them. This is what remains constant. This is what doesn't change. This is what makes us human, regardless of the era we live in. You're sleeping now, truly sleeping. The medieval world has released you completely. The kitchen is gone. The woman is gone. The fire is gone. But the memory of them remains. And in that memory, you feel connected to all the other people who have ever lived. All the other people who have ever woken up in the cold and eaten something simple and basic and necessary. You're part of that continuum now. You've experienced breakfast in the medieval world. You've felt what it felt like. You've tasted what it tasted like. And in doing so, you've understood something that historians can explain in words but can't quite convey in meaning. The profound humanness of the ordinary, the profound connection that links us across time through the simple act of surviving, of being fed, of being cared for. The sound of breathing, slow, deep, peaceful. The sound of sleep itself, quiet, dark, complete. The sound of time continuing, as it always does, as it always will. But before you disappear entirely into sleep, there's more to understand, more to experience. The medieval world is not quite ready to let you go. The bell tolls again, but this time it's different. It's afternoon now. The sun is higher. Hours have passed. You find yourself back in the courtyard. But time has shifted. It's no longer early morning. The sun is directly overhead now. The day has progressed. Work has been done. Hours of work. Your body feels different, more tired. Your hands have blisters on them from labor. Your back aches from bending. Your feet are sore from standing. The breakfast you ate this morning feels like it happened days ago. And yet it sustained you. That simple porridge, that basic bread, that weak ale, it carried you through hours of work. It gave your body the fuel it needed to function, to labor, to survive the day. Around you, other people are moving similarly, worn, tired, but not stopping. There's still more to do before nightfall. You see the woman from the kitchen again. She's no longer tending the fire. She's in the courtyard, hanging wet cloth over a line to dry. Her hands look raw, red. She's been working too, probably since before you even woke up, probably until long after you go to sleep. But not everyone worked as hard. If you were noble, you might have rested after breakfast. If you were a child, you might have played. If you were elderly or infirm, you might have had lighter work. The medieval world had hierarchy, and that hierarchy extended to labor as well. You move through the courtyard and into another building. It's cooler inside. The stone walls are thick. There's a window, and light streams through it at an angle that tells you the sun is indeed high overhead. There's a table here, simple wooden table. On it are various items, food perhaps, or tools, or cloth. It's hard to tell in the medieval world. The distinction between different rooms and their purposes is not as clear as in modern times. A man sits at the table. He's older, maybe 50, maybe 60. His face is lined deeply. His hands are scarred. He wears simple clothing, a tunic dyed a rust color, sleeves rolled up, revealing muscular forearms. He's eating something. Bread, definitely, and cheese. The cheese looks hard, aged. It's pale yellow in color. He breaks off pieces of bread and pieces of cheese and puts them in his mouth together. He chews slowly, deliberately. There's a cup beside him. It contains something dark. Wine, maybe, or cider, or ale. In the medieval world, you don't drink water unless there's no other option. Everything fermented is considered safer, better, more proper. He doesn't look at you. He's lost in his own thoughts. Or maybe he's not thinking about anything at all. Maybe he's just eating, just existing, just getting through the day. The whispered voice. Midday meals in the medieval world were not elaborate. They were simply a continuation of breakfast. More food, more fuel. The same basic ingredients, prepared slightly differently, if at all. You move through the building and find yourself outside again. You're at the edge of the manor grounds now. Beyond the immediate courtyard, there are fields. Vast fields stretching out toward the horizon. The grain is growing now, spring grain, planted weeks ago, beginning to show green shoots. It's not ready for harvest. That will come in late summer, but it's growing. It's becoming what will eventually feed thousands of people. The work in these fields is endless. Men and women are bent over rows, pulling weeds. Others are preparing soil. Others are checking on plants. The work is repetitive, meditative almost. The same motions, repeated again and again, for hours on end. One woman looks up as you pass. She's young, maybe 20. Her face is flushed from the work. There's dirt on her hands and on her dress, but her eyes are clear, alert. She nods at you and goes back to work. She ate breakfast too, several hours ago. That porridge, that bread, that ale, it's carrying her through hours of physical labor in the sun. Without it, she couldn't do this work. She would collapse. This is why breakfast mattered. This is why it was necessary. The medieval world ran on the fuel provided by basic, humble meals eaten early in the morning. Without breakfast, nothing else would be possible. The sound of wind in the grain, the sound of people working, the sound of the earth being tended. You're standing in the field now, and the sun is warm on your face. The breeze carries the smell of growing things, green things, living things. There's a smell of life here that wasn't present in the courtyard or the kitchen. A man approaches you. He's tall, weathered. His skin is dark from years of sun exposure. His hands are massive, scarred, capable. The grain is growing well this year, he says. His voice is rough, but not unkind. If the weather holds, we'll have good harvest, good food, good breeding stock, good trade. He's talking about the grain, but he's really talking about the future, about the possibility of abundance, about survival. In the medieval world, survival is never guaranteed. A bad harvest means hunger, starvation sometimes. Disease follows hunger like a shadow. So the farmers watch the grain carefully. They tend it. They pray for it. They depend on it. And when spring comes, when the grain begins to grow, there's hope. The man walks away, disappearing back into the field. You realize that breakfast is part of this system. The porridge and bread that was served this morning came from grain that was harvested last year, grain that was stored carefully through winter, grain that was milled and mixed and baked into bread, grain that was cooked into porridge. And this grain growing now, these green shoots, they will become breakfast in the future. They will feed the people of this household next year, and the year after that, and the year after that. This is the cycle. This is how the medieval world sustains itself. Through the planting, the growing, the harvesting, the storing, the milling, the baking, the eating, and then the planting again, round and round, year after year. The sound of the wind changing, the sound of the sun moving across the sky. Time passing. The afternoon is wearing on. The sun is beginning its descent toward the western horizon. The light is becoming less harsh, more golden, more beautiful in a way. But the work continues. It always continues in the medieval world. There's always something to do, always another task, always another field to tend, another animal to care for, another piece of cloth to wash, another meal to prepare. You find yourself back inside now, back in the kitchen. But it's a different time. The fire is burning higher now. The woman is preparing something, stirring something that smells different from the porridge of the morning. This smells like vegetables, like herbs, like something more complex than the basic breakfast. This is dinner, the evening meal, the last meal of the day. If breakfast was utilitarian and necessary, dinner is slightly more complex. There might be more variety. There might be meat, if the household is wealthy enough. There might be vegetables from the stored root cellar. There might be herbs and spices, but for most people, it's still essentially the same. Bread, probably. Ale, definitely. And something warm and filling. A stew, maybe. Or pottage, a thick soup made from whatever was available. The woman moves with practiced efficiency. She's been doing this for decades, preparing meals, breakfast, dinner, and whatever small food might be consumed before bed. Breakfast, dinner, for year after year, for her entire adult life. But not everyone ate 3 meals a day. If you were poor or enslaved, you might eat once a day, or every other day. If you were noble, you might eat multiple meals with many courses. The number of meals and the quality of meals was directly tied to your place in the social hierarchy. You eat dinner. It's pottage, a thick stew made from dried peas, herbs, and what might be root vegetables. There's meat in it, a small piece. The presence of meat suggests this is a wealthy household, or at least a household that can afford meat occasionally. The taste is different from breakfast, more complex. The spices are evident now, probably dried herbs from the previous summer, sage maybe, or thyme. Something that adds flavor and depth. You eat it with bread, always with bread. Bread is the foundation of every medieval meal. Bread for breakfast, bread for dinner, bread for the small snack before bed. Bread and more bread. The woman watches you eat. She's not being judgmental, she's just watching, making sure you eat enough, making sure you're getting the fuel you need. When you finish, she takes the bowl and brings you water. Real water this time, not ale. For washing your hands, for rinsing your mouth, for cleaning away the taste of the day's work. The light is fading now. The sun is lower. The day is coming to an end. You move outside again. The courtyard is quieter now. People are finishing their work, putting things away, preparing to retreat indoors for the night. The animals are being brought in. Chickens are being settled in their roost. A cow is being led to the barn. A horse is being brushed down. The rhythm of the medieval day is winding down. And as it winds down, you understand something that the porridge and bread of breakfast revealed, but that you didn't fully comprehend until now. The medieval world is governed by cycles, daily cycles, seasonal cycles, the cycle of the year, the cycle of years. Everything is connected. Everything flows into everything else. The work in the fields results in the grain that becomes the bread that fuels the work in the fields. It's circular, it's self-contained, it's elegant in its own way. Breakfast was just the beginning of this cycle, the first step in a day that will circle back to breakfast tomorrow, and the day after that, and the day after that, for decades, for lifetimes, for centuries. Everyone who eats breakfast in the medieval world is part of this cycle. Everyone who labors is fueled by breakfast. Everyone who tends the fields that will become next year's breakfast is sustained by today's breakfast. It's profound in its simplicity. The sound of doors closing, the sound of people retreating indoors for the night, the sound of fires being banked to smolder through the night. You're back in the kitchen now, one more time. The woman is there, of course. She's always there. She's cleaning the pots and bowls from dinner, using water that's been warmed by the fire, scrubbing with something rough, straw maybe, or the hull of grain. Tomorrow morning, she'll be here again, before dawn, lighting the fire, preparing the porridge, waiting for people to come eat breakfast before they go out into the day. She'll do this tomorrow, and the day after tomorrow, and for the rest of her life probably. This is her role. This is her contribution to the cycle. This is how she survives. how she feeds herself, how she's useful to the household. And in doing this, she feeds everyone. She sustains everyone. She makes the work possible. The whispered voice, the people who prepare meals are often forgotten by history, but they were essential. Without them, civilization would collapse. Without breakfast, nothing else would be possible. You understand this now. You've lived it. You've tasted the porridge. You've felt the warmth of the fire. You've experienced the day that was fueled by breakfast. You're beginning to drift now. The kitchen is becoming less real. The woman is becoming transparent. The fire is becoming a memory of fire rather than actual fire. The sound of night settling over the medieval world. The sound of sleep beginning to claim people after a long day of work. You're lying in bed now, back in the small room where the day began. The straw mattress beneath you, the rough wool blankets over you, the cold stone walls surrounding you. Your body aches. Your hands hurt from work. Your feet are sore. Your back is complaining. But you're satisfied. You've worked a full day. You've earned your rest. Tomorrow, you'll wake up. There will be porridge. There will be bread. There will be ale. There will be breakfast. And it will sustain you. Just as it sustained you today. Just as it will sustain everyone in this household and every household like this throughout the medieval world. The sound of breathing. The sound of sleep coming. But as sleep comes, as the medieval world fades completely, you carry something with you. An understanding, a connection. You've eaten breakfast in the medieval world. You've experienced what it was. You've understood what it meant. And in doing so, you've connected yourself to millions of people who lived that same breakfast, experienced that same day, felt that same tiredness, and then woke up the next morning to do it all again. You're part of their story now, and they're part of yours, across centuries, across time, connected through the simple act of eating breakfast. The sound fades. The medieval world releases you completely. The kitchen is gone. The woman is gone. The porridge is gone. The bread is gone. Only sleep remains. Only rest. Only the peace that comes after understanding. Continuation. The deeper meaning. But the story doesn't end with sleep. Because even in sleep, the medieval world continues to teach you. Because even in dreams, history speaks. You dream of breakfasts, thousands of them. Medieval breakfasts happening across centuries. In villages and cities and monasteries and farms scattered across Europe and beyond. You dream of the woman from the kitchen, but she's not just one woman. She's all the women who've ever prepared breakfast. She's your grandmother's grandmother's grandmother. She's the nameless kitchen workers whose names were never recorded, but whose hands prepared meals for millions of people. You dream of the people who ate the breakfast, the farmers and the merchants, and the monks, and the nobles, and the servants, and the slaves. All of them eating the same basic food, connected through breakfast, connected through the shared need to survive, to fuel their bodies, to continue. And in the dream, you understand something profound. Breakfast is democracy, not political democracy, but fundamental human democracy. Everyone needs to eat. Everyone needs fuel for their day. Everyone is the same in their hunger, in their need, in their dependence on food. In the medieval world, where every other aspect of life is governed by hierarchy, breakfast is the great equalizer. The noble eats breakfast. The peasant eats breakfast. The slave eats breakfast. The monk eats breakfast. The quality differs. The quantity differs. But the fundamental truth remains. Everyone needs breakfast. And because everyone needs breakfast, breakfast connects us across time. Everyone who has ever lived has needed breakfast. Everyone who will ever live will need breakfast. It's the most basic, most fundamental human need, more fundamental than politics or religion or social status, more fundamental than wealth or power or intelligence. Breakfast is what connects us to every human being who has ever lived. It's the thread that runs through all of human history. The sound of bells tolling in the distance. The sound of many bells from many different times, all ringing at once. In your dream, you hear the breakfast bell, but it's not just the medieval breakfast bell. It's every breakfast bell that's ever rung. The bell from ancient Rome, the bell from the Byzantine Empire, the bell from ancient Egypt, the bell from medieval Japan, the bell from the Victorian era, the bell from today, all of them ringing at once, all of them calling people to eat, all of them sustaining civilization through the simple act of feeding people breakfast. And you understand that this is what history really is. It's not the great battles, or the famous people, or the important events. Those matter? Sure. But what really matters is the breakfast, the daily meal, the everyday sustenance that keeps people alive and working, and building, and creating, and continuing. History is made by people who eat breakfast. History is sustained by people who prepare breakfast. History is a continuous circle of eating and working and sleeping and waking and eating again. You're part of that history now, not because you did anything important, not because you accomplished anything great, but because you lived a day. You ate breakfast. You worked. You ate dinner. You slept. That's all. That's everything. That's what it means to be human. The bells fade. The dream is settling into deeper sleep. The medieval world is becoming only a memory now, something that happened but is no longer present. But the memory remains. The taste of the porridge is still on your tongue, even though you're asleep. The warmth of the fire is still on your skin, even though the fire is gone. The understanding of what breakfast meant is still in your mind, even though the medieval world has released you. You've learned something tonight that can't be unlearned, that breakfast matters, that ordinary daily rituals matter, that the people who prepare them matter, that the continuity of these daily rituals across centuries matters. And knowing this, having understood it, you can sleep more deeply. You can rest, knowing that you're part of something that goes back to the beginning of time and will continue into the future. Something that connects you to every person who has ever lived. You're part of the great breakfast circle of human history. And that's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. The sound of breathing, slow, deep, complete. The sound of sleep itself, the deepest sleep, the most restful sleep, the sleep that heals. The sound of one person sleeping, but also the sound of billions of people sleeping, across centuries, across time, all connected through the simple morning meal. The sound of peace, the sound of rest, the sound of understanding. Fade to silence, complete silence. The story has ended. The sleep has truly begun. The medieval world has released you completely, but not without leaving something behind. A memory, a connection, an understanding that will stay with you even after you wake. When you wake tomorrow morning, you'll think about breakfast differently. You'll think about the hands that prepared it. You'll think about the grain that grew to make it. You'll think about the continuity of daily life across centuries. You'll think about the medieval world you visited tonight. And that thought, that memory, That connection, that's the real gift of this story. Not the journey to the medieval world, but the return to understanding that breakfast, in all times and all places, is sacred. It's necessary. It's beautiful in its simplicity. Now rest, sleep deeply, dream of porridge and bread and the endless breakfast circle of human history. You've earned it. The variations, the sound of a rooster crowing. But it's different now. It's not just one rooster. It's many roosters from many different places. But as you sink deeper into sleep, the medieval world doesn't quite release you. Instead, it branches, it multiplies, it shows you variations. Because breakfast in the medieval world wasn't the same everywhere. The basic principle was the same. Eat something in the morning to fuel the day. But the specifics changed based on where you were, who you were, and what was available. Breakfast in a medieval monastery. The sound of a bell tolling in the darkness, pre-dawn darkness. You find yourself in a different place now, still medieval, but different. This is a monastery. The bells are ringing because it's time for prayer. A monk walks down a stone corridor. His feet are bare. His robe is simple, rough cloth, dyed a dark brown or black. He looks tired. He always looks tired. Monks don't sleep much. There are prayers to be said at all hours. He enters a small room. It's his cell. Just a narrow bed, a small table, a small shelf. Nothing else. Everything in a monastic life is about simplicity, about removing distractions, about focusing on God. On the table is something, a piece of bread, hard bread, very hard. It's been sitting there for days probably. It's dry, dense, almost rock-like. Next to the bread is a cup of water, just water. No ale here, no wine. Water because wine is considered a luxury, and monks are supposed to avoid luxuries. The monk sits on the edge of his narrow bed. He picks up the bread. It's so hard that he has to bite it carefully. He can't just tear into it. It requires work, effort. The inside is better than the outside, but only slightly. It's dense, chewy. It requires a lot of work to eat. He eats slowly, deliberately. There's no pleasure in this. That's the point. The pleasure would be a distraction, a sin almost. Food for monks is fuel. It's survival. It's not meant to be enjoyed. But not all monks ate the same breakfast. If you were an abbot, the head of the monastery, you might have better bread, you might have cheese, you might have ale instead of water. The hierarchy existed even within the walls of a monastery. The monk finishes his bread and drinks his water. The entire breakfast took maybe 5 minutes. He's not full. He's not even particularly satisfied. But his stomach is occupied. His mouth has something to do. That's enough. He stands up and makes his way to the chapel. There are more prayers to be said. The day continues. The monastic day is organized around prayer, with work and meals fitted in around it. Breakfast was just a brief pause in the rhythm of prayer. Breakfast in a noble's hall. The sound of luxury, the sound of wealth, the sound of a servant's footsteps on stone. A different scene now, a different world, even though it's still medieval. A nobleman's hall. Not a kitchen, like before, a great hall, a room designed for eating and celebration and the display of power. A noble sits at a table. The table is high up on a dais, elevated above the rest of the room. This elevation is important. It shows his status, his importance, his place in the hierarchy. In front of him is breakfast, but it's nothing like the porridge the common people ate. This is elaborate. There's bread, yes, but it's fine bread. White bread, probably, made from refined flour. A luxury item. There's cheese, but not the hard, aged cheese. Fresh cheese, soft and rich. There's fruit. Dried fruit, probably. Apples or plums from storage. There's meat. Meat, a luxury that most people would see only on feast days. It's probably cold meat, left over from yesterday's dinner. There's wine. Rich wine. The kind that costs money. The kind that came from far away. Possibly from the south. Maybe from the Mediterranean. Maybe from as far as the Holy Land. There's butter. Real butter. The kind made from cream that was too good to turn into cheese. It's pale yellow. It glistens in the morning light. A servant stands nearby, waiting to serve, waiting to pour more wine, waiting to bring more food. The noble eats slowly, not because he has to, not like the common people who need to get to work, but because this is a performance, this is a display. Eating elaborate breakfast is a way of showing wealth, a way of showing power, a way of showing that you don't have to work with your own hands, that you can afford to eat luxuriously while others are eating porridge. The whispered voice, food is power in the medieval world. The more elaborate your breakfast, the higher your status. The more people can see you eating well, the more important you appear. The breakfast might take an hour, 2 hours. There's no rush. There's conversation with other nobles, if there are any visiting. There might be entertainment, a musician maybe, playing while they eat, someone singing. A peasant, watching this breakfast, would be amazed. They would see more food in this one meal than they see in an entire month. The abundance would be almost incomprehensible. But to the noble, it's normal, it's expected, it's the way things are supposed to be. Breakfast for a slave or serf. The sound of darkness, the sound of chains, the sound of barely surviving. A different perspective now, a harsh one. A slave sits in near darkness. The room is cold. There's no fire here, no warmth, just stone and darkness, and the smell of too many bodies living in too small a space. Breakfast, if you can call it that, is minimal. A piece of bread, smaller than what a free person would get, hard, old, possibly with mold on it. There's no ale, just water, weak water, possibly contaminated. It tastes bad, but it washes down the bread. The slave eats quickly, fearfully, always with the awareness that someone might take the food away, that someone might hit them if they're too slow, that there might not be more. Breakfast for a slave is about survival. It's about getting enough to be able to work. It's about maintaining just enough energy to be useful. It's not about pleasure or satisfaction or status. It's about the bare minimum needed to keep a body functioning. The breakfast takes maybe 2 minutes. Then the slave is sent out to work, to labor in the fields, or in the manor, or in whatever capacity has been determined by the person who owns them. The rest of the day stretches ahead. Hunger will return before midday, but there might not be another meal. That depends on the master's mood, on how much he cares about keeping his slave alive, on whether he thinks the slave is worth feeding. But not all slaves had it this bad. Some masters were kinder than others. Some provided better food. Some actually cared about their slaves' welfare, not out of compassion, but out of practical understanding that a healthier slave could work harder and longer. The circumstances varied greatly. Breakfast in a Jewish household. The sound of prayers in Hebrew, the sound of a different tradition. A family gathers before dawn. It's Passover. The rules are different now. No bread, no grain-based foods. Those are forbidden during this holiday. Instead, there's matzah, unleavened bread, bread that was made quickly, without time for yeast to rise. It's dry, dense, but it's permitted. It's what's eaten during Passover. There's also eggs, boiled eggs, simple but protein-rich. There's cheese, salt, bitter herbs to remember the bitterness of slavery. The family eats together. There's prayer before eating. There's meaning beyond just survival. The breakfast is part of a ritual, part of a tradition that goes back centuries, part of a way of remembering and honoring the past. The mother has prepared this carefully. She knows the rules. She knows what's permitted and what's forbidden. She knows the significance. She's not just feeding her family, she's connecting them to thousands of years of Jewish tradition. She's keeping that tradition alive through the simple act of preparing breakfast. But not all Jewish families could observe these rules perfectly. If you were a servant in a Christian household, you might not be able to keep Passover. If you were poor, you might not have access to matzah. If you were traveling, you might have to compromise. The lived experience was more complex than the ideal. Breakfast in a pilgrim's shelter. The sound of travel. The sound of people on the move. The sound of the road. A pilgrim sits in a shelter. They're on their way to Santiago de Compostela, or Rome, or Jerusalem. They're on a pilgrimage, a religious journey that might take months or years. Breakfast is whatever they brought, or could buy, or were given. A piece of bread, probably, some dried meat, maybe some cheese, some wine or ale from a roadside inn. The shelter is crowded. There are other pilgrims here. Some are wealthy and can afford good accommodations. Some are poor and sleep on the floor. Some are nobility doing penance. Some are ordinary people seeking blessing or healing. The pilgrim sits next to someone they've never met before and might never meet again. They share the shelter. They share the fire. They share the warmth. It's a moment of community in an otherwise solitary journey. The breakfast is eaten quickly. The journey continues. There are miles to cover before nightfall. There are dangers on the road, bandits, wild animals, bad weather. There's no time to linger. But for a moment, eating breakfast with other travelers, there's a sense of connection, a sense of shared purpose, a sense of being part of something larger than yourself. Breakfast in a merchant's house. The sound of commerce, the sound of activity, the sound of wealth being created. A merchant sits at a table in his counting house. He's already been awake for hours, probably, going over accounts, reviewing shipments, planning the day's business. Breakfast is substantial, but not elaborate. He's not trying to display wealth like a noble. He's practical. He eats good food because he needs energy to work. He eats well because he can afford to. But he doesn't waste time or resources on elaborate display. There's bread, fresh bread from a good baker. There's cheese. There's dried fruit. There's ale. It's all good quality, but it's sensible. It's efficient. He eats while he works. He doesn't linger over breakfast. There's money to be made. There are trades to conduct. There are shipments to arrange. There are customers to satisfy. But even as he eats and works, there's a sense of satisfaction. He's a successful man. His breakfast reflects that. It's good food. It's the breakfast of someone who's made good choices, who's worked hard, who's built something. His children might eat breakfast in the same room with him, learning about business while they eat. They're being educated not just through formal instruction, but through observation, through watching their father work, through understanding that breakfast is not separate from the rest of life, but integrated into it. Breakfast for a peasant family in winter. The sound of cold, the sound of scarcity, the sound of survival during hard times. But winter brings different circumstances, a different kind of breakfast. A peasant family sits together in their small cottage. The fire is burning low. They can't afford to waste fuel on heat just for comfort. The room is cold. Their breath is visible in the air. The breakfast is meager, very meager. They've been saving their stores of grain carefully, rationing them. They need them to last until spring, until the new harvest. So breakfast is thin porridge, much thinner than the porridge of spring. It's stretched with water, stretched as far as it will go. It's almost soup, almost just flavored water with a little bit of grain in it. There's no bread. Bread would use too much grain. They can't afford it. There's ale, but it's weak. Weak ale, made from whatever was left over. Almost like water anyway. The family sits quietly. They don't talk much. Talking takes energy. Energy they need for work. They eat slowly, making the small amount of food last as long as possible. The children are hungry. They're always hungry in winter, but they're used to it. Hunger in winter is normal. It's something everyone experiences, something everyone survives. The mother thinks ahead. In a few weeks, she'll need to plant the garden. There's seed saved from last year. If they can ration the grain until then, if they can make it through until the first spring vegetables come in, they'll survive another year. This breakfast is not satisfying. It's not nourishing. It's barely enough to keep them alive. But it's what they have. It's what they can afford. And breakfast, in the medieval world, especially in winter, is often about survival rather than satisfaction. Breakfast on special occasions. The sound of celebration. The sound of something different. The sound of breaking routine. But breakfast isn't always the same. Sometimes something changes. Sometimes there's celebration. A feast day, Christmas or Easter, or the feast of the local saint. Breakfast on feast days is different. Even a peasant family might have something better. Meat, perhaps. Better bread. Wine instead of ale. Cheese that wasn't saved for winter. Honey if you're very lucky. Honey is a luxury. The bees are precious. Honey is reserved for special occasions. The whole village gathers. There's a sense of community. Neighbors share breakfast together. There's celebration. There's temporary abundance. There's a sense that life isn't always struggle, that there can be moments of plenty, moments of joy. A noble family eats even more elaborately than usual. There might be exotic spices, imported fruits, imported wines, entertainment during breakfast, music and dancing and celebration that will last all day. Even the servants eat better on feast days. The master might provide extra food as a gift, a way of acknowledging their work, a way of celebrating together, even though the hierarchy is still very much present. These feast day breakfasts are significant because they're different, because they break the routine, because they remind people that life can be more than just survival, that there can be beauty and joy and abundance, even if it's temporary, even if it's only once or twice a year. The universality of breakfast. The sound of many breakfasts happening at once. The sound of a world waking up. And as you dream deeper, as sleep claims more of you, you understand something important. Despite all these variations, despite all these differences, There's something that connects all these medieval breakfasts. Something universal. Everyone ate. Everyone needed food in the morning. The quality was different. The quantity was different. The circumstances were different. But the fundamental truth remained. Breakfast happened. Breakfast was necessary. Breakfast was how the day began. A slave and a noble both ate breakfast. The slave's was meager and rushed. The noble's was elaborate and leisurely. But both were eating. Both were preparing for the day ahead. Both were part of the same system that ran on breakfast. A monk and a merchant both ate breakfast. The monk's was simple and without pleasure. The merchant's was practical and efficient. But both were eating. Both were beginning their day with food. A peasant in winter and a pilgrim on the road both ate breakfast. The peasant's was barely enough to survive. The pilgrim's was whatever they could find or afford. But both were eating. Both were keeping their bodies alive through food. Breakfast was the great leveler, the one thing that transcended hierarchy and circumstance and belief and status. Everyone, regardless of position, needed breakfast. The morning rituals. The sound of mornings, many mornings, 1,000 mornings condensed into one moment of understanding. And you understand that breakfast wasn't just food, it was ritual. It was a way of marking the beginning of the day, a way of making the transition from sleep to wakefulness, a way of preparing mentally and physically for what lay ahead. The woman in the kitchen knew this. She prepared breakfast at the same time every day. It was a ritual. It had meaning beyond just feeding people. It was a way of maintaining order, a way of saying, today has begun. The work will now start. This is how we do things. The noble knew this too. His elaborate breakfast was a ritual, a performance, a way of displaying his status, a way of maintaining his place in the hierarchy. It happened at the same time every day, with the same order, the same servants, the same food. It was ritual and meaning wrapped together. Even the slave understood this. Even in their suffering, there was routine. Even in their hunger, there was the expectation that breakfast would happen at a certain time, in a certain way. The routine was one of the few things the slave could depend on, one of the few things that was predictable in an unpredictable world. Breakfast was how people maintained sanity in a chaotic world. Breakfast was how they created order. Breakfast was how they said, I survive. Today, I will continue. Today, I will do what needs to be done. And breakfast is how I prepare for it. The continuity of breakfast. The sound of bells tolling, one bell after another. Bells from different centuries, all ringing together. As you drift deeper into the dream, as the medieval world begins to fade completely, you understand the final truth. Breakfast has been happening for thousands of years. It's been happening in every culture, every time period, every civilization. The specifics change, but the fundamentals remain the same. Breakfast in ancient Rome was different from breakfast in medieval Europe. Breakfast in medieval Europe was different from breakfast in ancient China. Breakfast in ancient China was different from breakfast in the Islamic world. But they were all breakfast. They were all the first meal of the day. They were all preparations for the day ahead. They were all rituals that marked the beginning of time and the continuation of life. And billions of people have eaten breakfast. Billions and billions, stretching back into prehistory, stretching forward into the future. Everyone who has ever lived has eaten breakfast. Everyone who will ever live will eat breakfast. You are part of this continuity. You are part of the great breakfast circle of human history. By eating breakfast in the medieval world, by experiencing what it was like, you have connected yourself to everyone who has ever eaten breakfast. You are connected to the medieval slave, eating thin porridge before being sent to work. You are connected to the medieval noble eating elaborate breakfast while displaying his wealth. You are connected to the medieval monk eating hard bread in his cell while preparing for prayer. You are connected to the medieval peasant eating what she can scrape together during a hard winter. You are connected to people in ancient Egypt waking up and eating bread and beer. You are connected to people in ancient China waking up and eating rice and tea. You are connected to people in the Islamic world waking up and eating dates and bread and water. You are connected to everyone, everywhere, across all of time, who has ever woken up and eaten something to prepare for the day. This is the real gift of understanding breakfast. This is what it means to truly comprehend history. History is not just the big events and the famous people and the important moments. History is the accumulation of billions of small moments, billions of breakfasts, billions of people waking up and eating something and then going about their day. And each of those moments mattered. Each of those people mattered. Each of those breakfasts mattered. The final understanding. The sound of sleep becoming deeper. The sound of dreams becoming less distinct. The sound of the mind beginning to let go. As the medieval world finally releases you, as the dream begins to fade into pure sleep, you carry this understanding with you. Breakfast is sacred, not sacred in a religious sense, necessarily, but sacred in the sense that it's essential, in the sense that it connects us across time and space, in the sense that it's an act of care and survival and meaning-making. When you prepare breakfast for yourself, you're participating in something that has been happening for thousands of years. When you eat breakfast, you're connecting yourself to billions of people across centuries. When you prepare breakfast for someone else, you're doing what the medieval kitchen woman did. You're sustaining them. You're enabling their day. You're participating in the continuation of human civilization. Breakfast is how we survive. Breakfast is how we continue. Breakfast is how we remain human. And this truth, this understanding, is more important and more powerful than all the historical facts and dates and names that you could ever learn. The sound of deep sleep, the sound of the mind finally, completely resting. The sound of the medieval world completely releasing you, but leaving behind a gift, a memory, an understanding, a connection to all of human history. The sound of peace, complete, absolute peace. The morning after. The sound of a new day dawning, a new morning, the future. When you wake tomorrow, you'll think about breakfast differently. You'll pour your coffee or tea or prepare your food, and you'll remember the medieval kitchen. You'll remember the porridge. You'll remember the woman who prepared it. You'll think about the grain that became your breakfast. You'll think about the hands that grew it, harvested it, milled it, prepared it. You'll think about the continuity of human life, about how your breakfast is connected to medieval breakfasts, which are connected to ancient breakfasts, which are connected to the first breakfasts that humans ever ate. You'll think about the billions of people who have eaten breakfast before you, and you'll think about the billions of people who will eat breakfast after you. And you'll realize that you're not separate from history. You're not outside of it. You're part of it. You're part of the great breakfast circle of human experience, and that realization will change how you think, how you act, how you move through the world.